Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. My name is Brianna and this is For a Pause in a Book. I make book and lifestyle related content, so if that's something that you're interested in, make sure that you hit the subscribe button down below. Today it is going to be episode 3 of SPFBO Cassidy's version. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, I will link a playlist up above in one of the two corners. It's fine. I've only been doing this for like 5.5 years. I don't know what corner it's in. It's fine. Don't worry about it. I am doing a video series where I am reading all of the finalists of the SPFBO, which is a blog-off contest for self-published fantasy books that is created by Mark Lawrence. And I'm reading all the finalists. There's a bunch of us doing it. I'll link all the instructions and the first 2 episodes down below. All that fun stuff. Today we are going to be using the Mug of Madness, and we're going to be picking the next 2 books that I'm going to be reading. Now I have a couple books that are on my March TBR, so I'm really hoping that the Mug of Madness will be not mad and actually give me what I want. Let's use the Mug of Madness, Mug of Mayhem. There's so many alliterations, and I thought going with the Mug of Chaos was a good idea. Seriously, Brie? Alright. Anyway, I'm just going to shuffle these up and grab one. Okay, here we go. And it is A Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah. This is the one that I'm really excited about. I've heard so many people talking about it, and it's highly praised. So I have high hopes for it, despite it having some like anti-buzzwords for me, including just being dropped into the middle of chaos. So there's that. Okay, that's going to be the first one that we read. Now let's pick the second one. Fortunately, Touch of Light is on my March TBR, so that kind of worked. Now we are into the second half of this. I have finished 5 of these books. There are 10, so we've got 4 more to choose from, plus Touch of Light. All right, and the next one is going to be Tethered Spirits, which I've also heard some pretty good things about. So, wasn't on my March TBR. That's fun. Alright, so I'm not going to talk about what these books are, because honestly, I'm not really sure. You can check out my predictions. There's a rough synopsis on that video, but I will talk to you more about it once I start, and once I've kind of got my feet into the book. So without further ado, let's get into the vlog portion of this video. Hello. I am starting this book, Touch of Light by Tiago Abdallah, and I have had the most reservations about this book because to me, every time someone talks about this, I get so excited about it and I feel like it's going to be my perfect brand of fantasy, right? But then people that have read it are like, oh, I don't know if you're going to love this, like based on other books that you didn't like and reasons that you didn't like it. So like I'm so nervous about this book. But I've read 45 pages and I already feel like I need to come talk to you because I'm loving it. I actually slowed down the audiobook to 2 times speed. Normally I'm like 2.5. And I slowed it down because the audiobook is beautifully done. It's very much like a performance. And even though it's only one narrator, he does a lot of different voices and it's just beautiful and fantastic. And I'm loving it. But one of the things that like absolutely makes me love a fantasy is characters, and like, can you love a character immediately, even if like they're an unlikable character? Like, can you still love them? Does that make sense? Like you can still love the gruff whatever that's not a likable character. But anyways, so there's that, and then also just the writing. And I was reading and I put a post-it note in here because I was like, oh, when I film my video about this, I have to talk about it. When a author is talking about the setting and just how like, what the character is seeing around them, and like it uses a little bit of like flowery writing, but like in a way that makes sense, I am absolutely just like head over heels for it. So let me just read you this paragraph because I loved it. Nasha edged towards it down a jagged path, a sharp obsidian jetting out, becoming larger and denser as she drew closer, sticking out from the rock face around the shallow cave, like the great mountain's own blackened forest, glimmering in the moonlight. What trees were left here had changed. Their trunks were cracked and seemed to be crumbling in places, and the ground had a gray tinge to it, ashen all around. The normally vivid green of the citrus leaves had turned a brownish yellow, most of them fallen. A characteristic aroma replaced by a sour decay that brought the back of her hand to her mouth. Perfect. Okay, I'm gonna get back to reading now. Okay, bye. Hello, everybody. I am about halfway through A Touch of Light, maybe a little bit more. Chapter 19, whatever that is. Yeah, it's like right at halfway. Anyways, I am still loving this book. This is so good. It's just so masterfully done, and I cannot believe that this is a debut novel. That's fascinating to me that it's so good. This is, I don't believe that this is actually his first work. Maybe it's his first published work, but I don't think this is his first work. This is fantastic. Yeah. This, I understand now why people were saying, like, they were hesitant about me loving this book. Not necessarily like because of the tropes that are in it, or just because of the like, you know, because of what's in the book. It's more of what's not in the book. And that is, Tiago does not hold your hand at all. This is not a beginner fantasy. This is not one of those like easily accessible, we know what is going on at all times kind of fantasy. This is a book that we just follow along. We just follow the author, and hopefully by the end of it, I know what's going on. Yeah, not sure that I will, but like, I don't know, it's one of those things that like, I'm okay with not knowing. Does that make sense? Like, there are some books that I'm like frustrated because I don't know what's going on. But this one, I think, like, he just makes the ride so enjoyable that I'm fine not knowing. And I don't know if it's because the characters don't know what's going on, so it's not like I feel like I'm confused. When you get frustrated with the pacing of a book, or like the understanding of a book where like you're just like, I could really use an info dump right now, right? It's generally because the characters know what's going on, but you don't, so you feel 3 steps behind. This one, like, you know what the characters know, right? And I really love the way that he is like integrating the lore and the history of this world in it. And like at the beginning of every chapter, there are like excerpts from text that are in the world, right? So like this one here says, her house watches over us, and so we must care for all that surrounds it. Hallowed ground must be cleansed with fire, the ashes removed from her domain. And that is from the Book of the Body. There is no explanation about what that is, how it's important, but it just kind of just adds this little element to the world and to the setting, and you're just kind of immersed in it. So anyways, I'm gonna go finish this. It's gonna probably be finished today, I'm not gonna lie. I am obsessed with this book. Okay, here we go. Hello, I have finished A Touch of Light, and I'm here to talk about it. I finished it a few days ago. I've sat with my thoughts. I wanted to make sure that I was giving this a fair score, an accurate score, because I am obsessed with this book. This was absolutely a 5-star read. I really want to continue on in like the second series, or the second book in the series. However, there's no audiobook for the second one, and I do think that a lot of the magic of this book was because of the audiobook. The audiobook was just fantastically done. One of the best audiobooks that I have listened to in a long time. So that's high praise because I listen to a lot of audiobooks. So I might wait, and if it comes out in August, we'll see what happens. I don't know. But here we are. Let's talk about it. Let's give some scores, some rubrics. If you're unfamiliar about the rubric that we're using, like I said, I have the playlist up above. The first video in this series will explain the rubric, but essentially we are doing characters, plot, world building, writing, and enjoyment on a scale of 0 to 10, with like 10 being a perfect book, which is, you know, really hard to do. I've given out maybe one total, and 0 being like WTF, right? So kind of in between all of that. So let's talk about where A Touch of Light landed, what I scored it, and where it lands in my like list of everything. For the characters, I am giving them a 9. I loved them all. Like, they were all just so fantastic. They're not necessarily likable characters in the sense that like they are, you know, truly heroes. There's a lot of morally grayness in this, but I think that it was so well done.
Just so well done. I had a fantastic time, and I'm really excited to continue on in the second book, like I said, and just kind of dive into those characters a little bit more. The plot, I'm giving an 8. It is a first book in a series, so there's a lot of setup to the world, but there is a lot that just starts getting uncovered and peeled back as we went along with the book. Again, though, this is something that he does not hold your hand through the plot. He does not over-explain things. You just kind of have to go along for the ride. In my Goodreads review, I said something like, reading this book is a lot like surfing. You have no idea where you're going, but you're just here for the ride. And I think that that's pretty accurate. Yeah. World building, I was going back and forth between a 7.5 and an 8. And I ended up going on with 8. And I think like the downfall of it, like this is the lowest score that it gets. The downfall is, like I said, it does not explain things. It does not explain the magic system. You just kind of are assumed that you know what's going on, and just more kind of gets added on to it. However, one of the things that I just really love in this book is that lore that is added, and like the little excerpts of text from the books that are in this world, and you're just like, you know, you don't know anything else about these books, but it's just like adds to that little, like, I don't know, magic of it. And personally, I loved it. I know that a lot of people don't like that, and they really want to understand what's going on, to be able to envision themselves in that world. I didn't need that. So I'm gonna go with an 8. I'm gonna go with 8. Writing is a 9. Like it might even be a 9.5, but I think we're gonna stick with 9. Because I could like argue that it would be nice if we knew a little bit more, a little bit sooner. Like, I get what he was going for. I get what he was trying to do. But I can understand the criticisms. And then for enjoyment, I am also giving it a 9. I read this book so quickly. For like, I mean, it's not a big book, but it is dense, right? And I read this so quickly. So, all in all, that ends up with an 8.6, which is going to sit it in second place. I don't foresee anything taking over Small Miracles. That book is perfect for me. And it's really interesting because this is such a different book from Small Miracles, right? But the scoring is very similar. They're two very different vibes, for sure. But this is probably one of the best, it's not a classic fantasy, but like more in what you would think of as fantasy genre. It's probably one of the best that I've read in a long time. So I foresee this being on my best books of the year, and it's April. So I'm very glad that I read it, because I was definitely scared. But we're going to move on to our second book in this series, which is Tethered Spirits by T.A. Hernandez.
I look like a hot mess, and the lighting here is not great, but I've been cleaning my house today, and I have been listening to Tethered Spirits by T.A. Hernandez. There's not an audiobook for it. I've actually just been having Alexa read it to me, which is a thing that I found out you can do. It's not a great audiobook because it's literally just Alexa's voice, but like, I have to get through these books this month. But I did finish part 1, and I'm actually really enjoying it. The writing style is definitely pretty basic. There's nothing like clever about it. There's nothing really special about how it's going about doing what it's doing, but I am really enjoying the characters' perspectives. I think that this book feels like a D&D campaign so far. So we're following 3 different perspectives. One of them has like found out something about themselves, and then like that person has a group going along with it, and then there's another POV that's trying to find this person. So it's like, it's a really nice like intermix of like different perspectives that are like kind of going towards the same goal, but like not, you know what I mean? Does that make sense? It's not like 2 separate stories that are happening. They are kind of interconnected. So yeah, I mean, it's reading a little bit young. It's reading a little bit very like rude. I swear, it's the first warm day all season, and everyone's out on motorcycles. But anyway, the writing is very basic, and like they're talking a lot about the feelings, which I'm just like, come on, let's go, let's get back to the story. But it's still fun. So I'm gonna continue reading, and I will let you know. Maybe I'll do it to where like when I finish the second part. I will check back in with you, because that's like, it splits up pretty evenly into 3 parts. So that's what I'll do.
Hello, I have mostly lost my voice. I'm hoping it's just because of the travel that I've been doing and the fact that I was like speaking in loud kitchens and teaching and training all week. And so now my voice is like, nah, I'd rather not. But let's talk. I told you I was gonna update you when I got to in the end of part 2 of this, and I didn't do that. I finished it now. The only reason is because I read the end of part 2 and then all of part 3, like the end of the book on the plane. And, you can't really update someone on a plane. That would be weird. Just like chatting on a, no, I'm not going to do that. It's very loud in planes. But I did finish this and I actually really enjoyed it. I had a lot of fun with this book. If you remember my predictions, this book was, at the bottom, like number 9. And I'm happy to say that it's not going to be at the bottom for sure. I think that a lot of what I said when I ended in part 1 kind of still holds up through part 2 and part 3. There's definitely some pacing issues in the middle of the book. Like we did kind of slump a little bit, and I felt like it was taking me a long time to get through that middle chunk. But then towards the end, like it was fantastic. And I actually put the second book on my wish list. I will continue it in the series, which is good. If nothing else, this project has given me the opportunity to find new series that I might not otherwise would have picked up, and I'm enjoying the series. Now, are there some that I'm not going to continue series? Yeah, of course. But at least for this video, I will continue on in the series for the second books in these. Maybe that's a project where I could just continue SPFBO books. I don't know. But let's talk about the rubric and what I scored this and where this one will end up. The characters, I am going to give an 8. I think that was the strong point of this book, was the characters. And I really like books that have 3 POVs. I am finding this out. So I enjoyed that. I also really like it when there is a female main character. Kasari, one of the POV characters, is absolutely my favorite. She's a badass, will take no shit kind of person. And I loved her. She was fantastic. But the other characters were great too. And I think they all had their own distinct personalities. I was never confused about which POV we were in, which is hard to do sometimes. And a lot of times authors struggle with that definition between characters, and I was never confused. So that's good. The plot I gave a 7. It was typical, basic. There was a lot of journeying, which is not necessarily my favorite thing, where you go to one place, do a thing, go to another place, do a thing. But I think in this case, because I talked about at the beginning how this book really felt like a D&D campaign, and that kind of lent to it, right? When you're playing D&D, you go to a place, do a thing, go to a place, do a thing, go to a place, do a thing. And while sometimes I really hate that in books, other times I don't know, they kind of worked for this. It wasn't perfect. It's not my choice when it comes to reading fantasy, but it wasn't bad for sure. I think it worked. The world building I also gave a 7. I think there were times where I really could see what was going on. I absolutely loved it when they got on the pirate ship. Or the ship. Pirates on the brain. That part was great. But then there are other times that did kind of feel a little bit white room. The writing I gave a 7.5. Again, I had fun with it. I don't think that it did anything fantastic. It didn't do anything super out of the box or anything like that. And then the other thing is I was talking about with Touch of Light, I really love when an author really describes the setting and things like that, and that's what I loved about Touch of Light. In Tethered Spirits, it wasn't like that. There were no lines that stood out to me that I was oh, I need to quote this to you, but it did the job that it was supposed to do, if that makes sense. And then enjoyment, same thing. I gave it a 7.5. It was a fun book. It was good. So that means it averages out at a 7.4, which is a whole lot better than I thought it was going to be. That puts it in 4th place, which is not 9th. And it can't be 9th. So this one, I think it is a surprise for me. This is a win. I am happy that I read this one. With that, that's going to conclude this video for SPFBO. I have 3 more books to read. I have until the end of the month to do it. I have a couple of weeks to do it. We will be fine. It'll be fine. We got this. It's fine. Everything is fine. Let me know down in the comments below if you have any thoughts or feelings on either one of these books. And if you're not feeling chatty, do some sort of like lightning emoji or like storm emoji, because we have this like lightning thing happening here. So some sort of like storm, lightning, something. I'm sure we have something. That is all I have for you today. If you're new here and you have not yet subscribed, there's a little red button, then you can do so down below the video. If you'd like to hang out with me more, the links to my Instagram, Goodreads, Twitter, and my Patreon are linked in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.